thank you so much for joining us again here at our July 17th Virtual Art Hop Spotlight Series. We have Hazel James with us from Queer Theatre Kalamazoo. And Hazel, thank you so much again for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So this is a really interesting question, and I think it's really important because we're getting to know, it's interesting because we had a conversation about how long QTK has been around. And it's like, yeah, we're here. We've been here, no surprise. It's like, okay, like, how can we get our community like invested so that when people from out of state or whoever, when they come into town and they're like, hey, like, what is there to do, that we can say and we can help support each other. You can go see a show at QTK. You can go over here. You can go over there. So let's just kind of hypothetically think about, like, if someone were to come from out of state into our Kalamazoo community and got a chance to learn more about QTK and the work that you all do, what would they learn, and what kind of material do you all bring to your season?
Sure, good question. I do wish my artistic director Connor was here because he can speak to the show selection a lot better than I can. But there are so many considerations that we have to take into account. Things like, what shows would make a good partnership, what stories aren't being told in Kalamazoo. I was just thinking, I don't think I've ever seen an asexual character represented on stage. So I can go to Connor and say, hey, maybe we can find some sort of show that will fill that gap, right?
Absolutely.
What I really hope people learn is that, first of all, there's such a vibrant community here outside of the likes of Miller, the Civic, the Barn, Farmers Alley, all these really well-established theaters. Mm-hmm. And they do tend to produce more well-known shows that will draw an audience. And honestly, their single production budgets are larger than a lot of the smaller theaters' production budgets, or the entire season budget, I'm sorry. And there are so many just wonderful smaller theaters like Face Off, All Ears, Queer Theatre Kalamazoo. Mm-hmm. There's such a diverse offering, and I just think that's incredible. And I think that they'll see that as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hope they recognize that Kalamazoo is actually just full of exceptional talent. We can look at playwrights, for instance. I think we've produced about 40 brand new plays by local and Midwestern playwrights from Detroit, Chicago, Kalamazoo.
Wow.
In the past 7 years. And the unfortunate thing, honestly, is that there aren't that many opportunities with these larger companies for their works to be produced or workshopped or anything like that, So these artists kind of rely on these smaller organizations who are really focused on seeking out playwrights and new works, new voices to lift up. And I think that is just so crucial, really, in any community.
Yes.
And I would personally, I know we'll talk about this more later, I would like to see some of the larger theaters taking that on themselves and also lifting up the smaller organizations who do that work. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so many good things here in terms of representation, right, too, as well, because, the kind of work that Queer Theatre Kalamazoo brings to the table, as you said, is work that we don't see, that it gives people opportunity who are coming from many different walks of life, a space to show themselves, express themselves fully and unapologetic. Can I say the word? Unapologetically. There we go. I had to take my time. So which is such a joy to be able to be a part of that kind of community where you're giving that space and having all of those amazing playwrights bring their work. It's just so great. I think we need to be able to, again, it's already happening. You are already here. Let us as a community, inside and outside of Kalamazoo, continue to be sure to come and be a part of these virtual events, be a part of these virtual shows, so that I feel like theater gives such a great platform to learn, right? To learn about,
Yourself.
right? Just learn so much about, you know, who's around us and who we are, you know, because there's just so many things, beautiful things that, and beautiful and painful, and, you know, and there's triumphs, there's challenges, there's rewards. All of that we can, when we go to the theater, when we see these shows, we're really educated. And do you all do any, because I also too am super excited to continue to support you all virtually, but do you all do any kind of talkbacks or any kind of community discussions after your shows?
Not all the time. It really depends on the content of the show and if we think we can have a good dialogue. You know, if there are other organizations that we might bring in who can speak to some things maybe better than we can. So we definitely do, just not all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, you know, they say like the eyes are the window to the soul. I think that theater really has the opportunity to be the window into the soul of a community, right?
Absolutely.
Because, you know, for someone who's not a part of the queer community, where are they really gonna like learn about those stories and get to know that community if not in the theater? Like, yes, they should be going out and meeting different people, but it's really kind of a safe space for the audience as well to learn about a community that maybe they're confused or intimidated by or something like that. And so I hope people are reminded of not just the importance of representation itself, but representation that is created and produced by people who are part of the community that's being represented. Because all too often, even in Kalamazoo, we have stories that are centered around queer people, but they're being directed and or portrayed by, you know, cisgender heterosexual people. And the same thing with the Black community, and that's why Face Off Theater Company is so important. And we talked briefly about Queer Theater's collaboration with Face Off, you know, where we were like, the story is starting to center around people with intersecting identities, right? Yes. Where they have at least two marginalized identities. We didn't have the experience or the resources to take that on. And so we partnered with an organization where together we had that expertise, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it was received so well, you know, too. And you know, I'm so excited because these kind of conversations that we have, you know, it doesn't stop here, right? I mean, at least we get to have a platform right now, here and now, on our, you know, Arts Council Facebook, you know, virtual Art Hop Spotlight, you know, series. But it's not. We want to provide a space where hopefully, you know, folks will continue to, you know, support and seed into being able to come. And like you said, most important thing as we get into our next conversation, they get to come and see a show that is a really authentic representation, and not just, oh, like, I think this is who these people are. And so that's so important. And so we just want to thank you, and on behalf of myself too, for bringing that work to the table and continuing to stay in that space. So everyone, please make sure to continue to stay tuned. We're going to continue to talk with Hazel from Queer Theatre Kalamazoo, and we're so excited to have her here today, and we'll be getting on to our next question very soon. So be back.